Alrighty.
All right, what's up, everyone? It's Zach, and today I'm here with a very special guest. I'm here with Kailyn Toussaint. Kailyn, how are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing really well, thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here and taking the time to do this. I'm super excited to have you on. For those of you who are not familiar with Kailyn, she is a singer, performer, actress, writer, and if you have been listening to the podcast for a while now, you might remember an earlier episode with PJ Nowak, who is with the Donuts. Kailyn is actually a writer for the Donuts. So her kind of writing specialty is all about positivity, which if you follow the podcast, you know I'm all about
Mhm.
positivity. So I'm super excited to hear about that as well. But that's just a little bit about Kailyn. Do you mind kind of going into your background, who you are, what you do these days, all that good stuff?
Yeah, of course. So, yes, like you said, first and foremost, I'm a professional vocalist. I'm a singer trained in musical theater. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and studied musical theater at the University of Arizona, but I've lived in New York for a little over 3 years now, pursuing music, theater, acting, all of that. Very typical chasing the dream in New York City. Um, and so currently I'm working full time as a vocalist with Celebrity Cruise Lines. So I'm living on board a ship. I'm in the middle of the ocean as we speak, and performing on board for our guests and just traveling the world. It's a great job. And then part time, I work with the donut. So I've always loved writing. I've always been passionate about writing. And so it's such a nice way to keep that in my life. I write all of our positive news. So I write every day in the Daily Donut, our Dose of Positive section. And I also have my own offshoot newsletter called The Positive Donut that comes out once a week. That's just packed full of positive stories to try to remind people that it's not always all bad news, that there's still some good in the world. So I'm super passionate about that. I kind of like to think of myself as just an artist, whether it's music or writing or acting, do a little bit of everything. So that's just a little bit about me.
I love it. Awesome. So, Kaylin, something you mentioned is that maybe stereotypical dream of going to New York and pursuing
Yeah.
your career there. Do you feel like that has been something that has been necessary for your career, or do you think like if you stayed in Phoenix, you would have had similar or the same success, or do you think like being in New York is really that crucial for someone in your field?
So 2 years ago, I would have said you have to move to New York, or not have to, but it definitely makes a big difference if you're pursuing musical theater. Like, if you want to pursue film and television or commercials, there's so many ways to be an actor. Um, there's Los Angeles, Atlanta, Chicago, other cities you could go to, but I personally have always dreamed of having a career on stage in live theater. And so New York City is really the place to be, for that, to do it professionally. There's obviously
Yeah.
theaters all over the world, all over the country that you could perform in, but to have a substantial career, to make enough money to do it as an adult, as a career, you want to be in New York. But so that would have been my answer 2 years ago. But now with COVID and the pandemic, it's actually shifted our entire industry, that now you really can do it wherever, because auditions have shifted virtually, just like
Mhm.
everything has, it seems
Right.
like. So I'm able to submit for shows, audition for shows online. Um, and it's not really until you're in final callbacks that they want to see you in person. So that's actually, in my opinion, been one of the good things to come out of the pandemic, is
Yeah.
that artists can chase the dream from wherever they are, because you can do it all online, which is really nice. But I also just love New York. I've always wanted to live in New York. I've always wanted to live on the East Coast in a big city. So I do miss Arizona, but it's a nice place to go visit, to go home to. But I love New York. I'll be there for the foreseeable future. Once I get off the ship, I'll be there.
Awesome. I love it. And yeah, I think that it's really nice with kind of, I guess, the rise, quote unquote, of technology that has come through the pandemic where you can, um, audition remotely and it's more accessible. I'm sure that also probably makes it a little more competitive
Hmm.
because you're having more people that are able to audition for certain roles and stuff. But at the end of the day, I think it's healthy to have that competition and it can be fun. But you know,
Yeah.
when it comes to the musical theater, performing, singing, everything that you're passionate about, have these kind of been things that you've always had a passion for from a young age, or did it take a little bit to get into them, or what was your journey like for those?
Yeah, so I actually started with piano. I started
Okay.
playing piano when I was little. I would want to say like fourth grade, so
Okay.
like 9 years old. Um, and my dad jokes to this day, he really wanted athletic kids. And so I was put into all the sports. Like I did soccer and basketball and softball, and I just am clumsy. I like was not good at any of them. So eventually they put me into piano. And that's when it clicked. I was like, oh, I'm a musician. And then my piano teacher was also a voice teacher. And so I want to say around sixth, seventh grade is when I started taking singing lessons. But at the
Okay.
time, I'm like 11 years old. It was really just an after school activity, just a fun thing to do. But it wasn't until high school that I really started to take it seriously, to train more seriously. I went to a performing arts high school, so I was able to do it in school, performing after school, taking voice lessons. Um, and then when I decided to major in it in college is when I really said, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. And it is a risk. It's a risky field to be in, um, because so many people don't follow through, or not even follow through. So many people try and try and try and never get that break. It's so competitive. It's so hard. And it's a roller coaster. It's a field that it's not like most industries that you work your way up the ladder and
Mm-hmm.
you get a job, then you get promoted, then you get promoted, then you get promoted. It's like I'm here now. I'm working full time as an artist. I'm performing, but this contract is over in September. And then what? Then I could be back to bagging groceries, which is what I was doing 6 months ago. So it's that you always have to be on top of it. It's that hustle that they talk about. And so it definitely takes a certain type of person. But I think I've known since I was, 16, 17 that, this is what I want to do. I can't see myself doing anything else. It's worth the hustle for me because I think art is so important and music can change people's lives. And when I've
Mm-hmm.
been blessed with a voice, with the talent to do it, I want to be able to share it with people. So that's why I do it. But it is hard. And with the pandemic, like
Yeah.
that really just stopped. The entertainment industry was the first one down and the last one back open. So that
Mm-hmm.
definitely was tough for artists all over the world, but happy to be back doing it now.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy that, you're back doing what you love and that just the industry as a whole is kind of back as we're
Yeah.
navigating, these kind of weird times. Caitlin, you mentioned that it's a very competitive, very tough industry, and it's one that a lot of people might pursue and some might just never get to where they want to in it. Some, might kind of
Mhm.
scratch the surface and everything. Now, when you were deciding to major and just even now pursuing, the arts, have you ever had kind of like that feedback from other people like, "Oh, that's a waste of a major. That's silly that you're doing that," or any kind of like feedback like that
Oh
have
my
you
gosh.
experienced?
Oh, 100%. Like so many times.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it even comes from, family members. Thankfully
Mhm.
my family is fairly supportive, but and I think it always comes from a place of care and
Yeah.
love of like, "Oh, are you sure you want to do that? Why don't you minor in theater but major in, something real?" People
Yeah.
are like just I think people outside of the entertainment industry, and I still experience this now working as a professional artist, supporting myself as an artist, like, but people still say, "Oh, what's your plan B? What's going to happen
Mhm.
when you're done?" And it's like, "No, I'm going to do this. This is my career. This
Yeah.
is what I do for a living. It's not a hobby." Um, I think a lot of people see arts as a hobby, but you wouldn't say that to a professional NFL player or
Mhm.
NBA player, what are you going to do after? Like,
Yeah.
people have long, 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 fruitful careers in theater, in film and television, even if you don't know their name, if they're not, a huge star, people still can support themselves as artists. But it is often a matter of being multifaceted, of having multiple streams of income,
Mhm.
having those side hustle jobs. Like, I'm a writer, I'm a nanny, I work in a supermarket, and I audition. And, being able to do multiple things is always
Yeah.
really helpful because that is what happens to people when they go all in and then get one contract and then, realize, oh, what now? And a lot of times that's when people end up pivoting. So you have to be really smart. It really is like running a business.
Mhm.
But I'm the business,
Yeah.
being smart financially, saving money, having multiple streams of income so you don't have to, quote, have a plan B,
Mhm.
But I've definitely gotten that from family, friends, professors. I had this one professor in college, my English professor actually, freshman year, noticed that I'm a great writer. And he literally called me into his office hours and begged me to change my major. Like, what are you doing? You're majoring in theater. You're wasting your talent. You're such a good writer. You should major in English. And it was flattering. That was so nice of him. But also, I was like, no, like, this
Yeah.
is what I want to do. And look at me now. I am a
Right.
writer professionally, also.
Yeah.
And, you know, but yeah, artists deal with that all the time. And it is, if you can't tell, it's like so frustrating.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it
Yeah.
is.
I can imagine that that was kind of like the experience that you've had, unfortunately. And I mean, it's good that it sounds like you said, for the most part, it seems like, your family, friends are generally pretty supportive of all that you've done. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I can uh, not even close probably to what you've experienced or anyone, in the career path that you are in experiences. But I remember when I was in my undergrad, I was gonna like I went in wanting to be a psychology major, and everyone's like, "You sure about that? Like, you don't want to major
Okay.
in business?" And I'm like, yeah, I like psychology." They're like, "So you're gonna be a counselor or like not have a job ever?" And I'm like, I hope not.
Yeah.
So, that definitely struck some fear into me, and then long story short, I became an economics major. I hated my life. I was so miserable. It was the worst decision of my life, and then I went back to psych, and that's what I got my degree in, and I've been fine since. So, the reason that I wanted to ask you that question is because I think it's a
Yeah.
testament to just show that you should always, I mean, I guess within reason, but you should you generally follow your passions and do what you actually love to do, because I think if it's that important to you, you'll make it work one way or another. And kind of like you said, like if you're willing to put in the work,
100%.
you're not necessarily going to have a plan B because you know you're going to make it happen.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'll never forget someone once told me, you should major in something smart and something stable and
Mhm.
minor in something fun. And I was like, I understand going to the theater is fun.
Yeah.
Yes. And going to see entertainment is fun, but my field is work. Like
Yes.
I work just you should if you knew how many hours I have worked the last couple of weeks, like and the amount of training and discipline it takes.
Hmm.
Yes, I'm on stage singing and flashy and song and dance, jazz hands, but it's work and art is work. And so that's just a societal thing, is
Yeah.
the misunderstanding of just how much discipline it takes to be an artist.
Hmm.
But yeah, what you said is so true. Like if you are passionate about it, you should do it. I'm such an advocate for that. Like make it work. I'd rather be a quote unquote starving artist and hustling and working 3 jobs in New York to be a performer than have a job I don't care about and be comfortable. And that's not
Right.
everyone. I have friends that would rather just have a comfortable job and they're good with that, but I'm so not that person. I'd rather like go for it and
Hmm.
fight for it for as long as I can because I love it so much and that's what
Yeah.
like fills me up. That's what I'm passionate about and for. So, yeah, I'm willing to grind
I love
healthily
it.
to make
Yes.
it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something that has always been kind of an interesting conversation that I have with people is one day someone was talking to me and they're like, you shouldn't pursue your passion as a career or as your main source of income or what have you,
Mhm.
because when you take your passion and you kind of monetize it and make it your source of income, you lose the passion for it because it becomes work. And
Yes.
kind of like you mentioned, Kaylin, like what you do is a lot of intense work. Like it looks cool at the end result, but to get there, it takes a lot of work,
Mhm.
long hours, lots of commitment to it. But when I'm talking to you, you have such a passion and excitement for what you do. So my question is, how have you maintained that passion, and like how do you still get so excited about it, even though it is truly hard work that you're doing each and every day on it?
Yeah. It's definitely a balance. That's such a good question. I was just talking about this with one of my fellow castmates actually because we had our opening night for our last show. So we've opened 5 shows within the last 2 weeks. And so we finally got the last one open just 2 nights ago. And it has been exhausting.
Hmm.
Like it has been so much work getting these shows on their feet. And really we're just pushing through. And yeah, to be fair, the last 2 weeks, I have not felt that passion. It has felt like, ugh, gotta go to rehearsal. Oh my God, I'm so tired. I don't want to sing today. Like, I just want to lay in my bed and watch Netflix. But I don't know. It's that moment of when I'm singing on stage and I look in the audience and I see someone being moved. I see someone in the audience just like grinning ear to ear and like soaking up every word. That's what it's like, okay, that fuels me to keep
Hmm.
going. But yeah, I said to one of my friends, one of my fellow cast members after the show on Saturday, it was like, oh yeah, okay, this is why we do it because it ended up being so great. But yeah, there are days where you're exhausted and do not my body is sore and my feet hurt from being in heels all day and dancing. It's like just like any job, there's days where you are just tired and don't want to go to work, but it's a job.
Yeah.
That's what I get paid to do. so you're going to go to work. But for me, it's the connection with people and seeing the audience and seeing that art can move people.
Yeah.
And I also have to remember that I'm so exposed to theater and music because I'm in the industry. But for some people, they don't get that every day. I was talking to a guest just last week from, where was she from? She was from Venezuela, and she was saying, she's like, this is the closest I've ever gotten to seeing a Broadway show. She was like weeping, it's
Yeah.
so moved by a performance. And it was like, oh, wow, like we get to be that for these people who may have
Hmm.
never experienced live theater before. Um, so that's what keeps the passion alive for me, um, is just knowing that I can move people through music. But yeah, to be honest, we had a show last night. So we had, what day is today? Today is Sunday. So we
Sunday. Yeah.
had Friday. We had an opening night of one show last Sunday, so a week ago. Then we had a rehearsal day, opening night of another show on Tuesday, rehearsal day Wednesday, opening night of another show Thursday, opening night of another show Friday. We're exhausted. And then yesterday we went back and did the show that we had opened that prior Sunday. So we did another show last night. And last night I really was on autopilot. It was like sometimes you just got to do it. You could just
Yeah.
go through the motions just like you would do at an office job. But then it's like the audience, the response helps you get through. But now we have today off, which is nice, and then we have another show tomorrow. So it's that grind, but I'd rather be doing this than anything else. So
Yeah. I love
I'm
that. I
just
think
happy to
that,
be performing. I had 2 years without it. Yeah.
yeah, I think that that just makes a huge difference that even though with anything, you're gonna have hard days and days where you're like, "Oh, why am I doing this?" Or I'd rather be doing anything else than this right now.
Yeah.
But that you love it so much at the end of the day that it fuels you. And I think you brought up a good point that you do have the unique opportunity to just impact people in such like a deep emotional level. I mean, especially with what you're doing now.
Hmm.
I mean, like you think people are going on a cruise and they're gonna have a good vacation. They're probably with family, friends, loved ones, and they're really wanting to make an experience out of this.
Hmm.
And then they get to see an awesome performance and maybe like the guest you spoke to the other day, they've never seen anything like this before, any like live theater performance. And I think back on my personal life and I'm like, things like that, like creative arts and going to these experiences, those are like the things that I remember from trips or from, going
Yeah.
places. So it's really cool to hear that you are getting that feedback, that you are making such an impact. And it's really cool to kind of hear that that is something that also helps fuel you. Cause I think it's like maybe something that people might not realize is like a part of the industry, right? Like if you think of like a TV show or something, you're like, oh, I'm sure that actor, actress gets, like, oh, you really helped me when I was going through, a tough time with your humor or whatever. But
Hmm.
I mean, live performance, like, you still get that kind of feedback and you have that opportunity to help people.
Yeah. And that's actually one reason why, for me, I'm so much more passionate about live theater than film and television. I've done a few things with on film. I've done a couple short films. I did a commercial, and that is a whole other beast in itself. But
Hmm.
for me, it's like, the camera's right here. They say action, you say your line, cut, and that's that. There's no audience. For
Right.
me, it really is the connection of
Yeah.
someone right there. It's live. You're sharing that moment with these people.
Hmm.
And there's just something about that energy of live theater that is why I do it. It's that
Yeah.
community of sharing a space with people and knowing that, like, I'm here, you're there. If my voice cracks, my voice cracks. But like,
Yeah.
you know, that's what makes it special is like the reality of it, where film and TV is so much of it happens in post-production, all the
Hmm.
editing, all of that. And so I just love live theater. There's nothing like it. So that's why I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, last night I was tired, but it was like the audience pulled us through. It gave all of us energy.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Like when you're doing that live performance, you can play off the energy of the audience. Whereas,
Hmm.
if it's not in front of an audience, you don't really have that to energize you. I can imagine that, maybe in a longer performance,
Yeah.
maybe like internally you might be feeling you're like, oh, this is going so long. Maybe I don't think I'm doing as well as I normally would. But then you hear that audience erupt when, during a musical number or something, you're like, wow, like this is why I do it. They're kind of like cheering and applauding is
Yeah.
what's helping me push through to the end and hit all the notes and just make it the best performance that it can be, not just for you and like your career, but for all of these people who have taken the time to come watch and support what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely.
Awesome. So, through our conversation, like I kind of mentioned with you talking about your passions, there's so much, I guess, just bright energy, and you're so positive about the things that you share. So that kind of leads us a little bit into your writing, with positivity. Have you always been someone that
Hmm.
is really positive and wants to write about positive things, or is that kind of something that you maybe have to like be like, all right, it's time to put on that positive cap and really start writing about all the good in the world?
Yeah, the donut actually came into my life in such a like roundabout crazy way, but
Okay.
I have always considered myself a very glass half full kind of person. I really pride myself in that. I've worked hard to be that person, to be
Hmm.
the light in people's lives. Like I'm always that friend, that people come to like give the pep talk, lift people up. Like I really pride myself in being that kind of person. But as a writer, I actually am very passionate in writing fiction. I write a
Okay.
lot of like short stories, and that was always my thing. But yeah, I had never done anything in journalism or reporting or anything like that. But I found the donut through a friend of mine, and I was a subscriber for about a year, and I loved what they were doing. Like I just thought the donut was the best thing ever. Um, and I was working on ships prior to the pandemic, and
Okay.
the service, obviously, I don't have cell service because I'm traveling internationally or I'm in the middle of the ocean. And so we have internet, but I'm paying for internet by the minute. So it adds up, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And while I was on ships, it was like I knew I had the donut every day and I could read it and it was less than 5 minutes and I could stay connected to like the world because I'm kind of in this little bubble
Yeah.
in the middle of the ocean. And so I just was like, oh, this company is so cool. And it was so positive and casual and just real. Um, and so when the pandemic hit, I was stuck on board for about a month.
Mm.
We were just at sea. Um, and again, it was like we didn't really have the news. And so the donut was just like my way of staying connected.
Yeah.
And then eventually I got home. I was unemployed because I was supposed to be on ships. So I was unemployed and just kind of trying to pivot at the time because, yeah, Broadway was shut. Everything was shut. This was like, April 2020.
Hmm.
Um, and I just literally emailed the donut. Now I know it was Peter or PJ, and just was like, "Hi, I love what you guys do. Do you need more writers? Like I love to write." I was like, "I have no experience, um, but I love to write. I love what you do." I was
Yeah.
like, "Let me just, I don't know." This was like my lockdown brain. I was like, "I'm desperate." um, and then we just connected through there, and I at the time they didn't need anyone, but we just kept in touch, and every now and then I'd shoot an email or reply to the newsletter, and eventually December, yeah, December 2020, he PJ reached out to me about Positive Donut, that they wanted to start this offshoot newsletter that would be different than the daily, once a
Hmm.
week. It was originally 3 times a week. Now it's only once a week of just positive news. And he was like, I think you could be really good at this. Um, so that's how that kind of started. They were like, let's get you started just writing our dose of positive section, which is really
Hmm.
quick blurb every day. It's like a couple sentences just to kind of see how it goes. And then over the course of 6 months, we developed Positive Donut. So that is like Positive Donut is my baby. That is my brainchild. Like we built that from the ground up. Um, and I so appreciated Peter just like gave me full control, like full reins. He was like, figure it out. Tell me what you want to do
Yeah.
and do it. And I did. And it's been really great. So that launched in September. So six
Hmm.
months. That's crazy. It's been six
Yeah.
months since we launched that. And I love it. The hardest part of the job is finding the stories. But
Okay.
that's the whole reason we do it, is because no one writes about positive news.
Right.
So it's like my the most difficult part for me is finding the positive news to write about
Right.
because there's so little of it. So finding substantial stories has been a challenge, but I just think it's so important what we're doing there,
Hmm.
and the response we've gotten from it has been amazing. Um, yeah, I love it. It's been really great to write again because I hadn't really written since college. So to have that back in my life has been like such an unexpected joy that came out of the pandemic. That probably would not have happened. I would have just kept performing. So that was
Sure.
like, it's something really cool to come out of that time that I wasn't performing, as I found this passion again.
Yeah. I love it. That's so awesome.
Mhm.
And even just kind of like your story about how this all came about, I can tell it's very much like the glass half full kind of mentality of we went through a terrible time with the pandemic and I couldn't be on ships and Broadway was shut down.
Yeah,
But something good came out of it, and you have that passion to write again. It's really awesome, and I know you said that you're getting a good reception for the Positive Donut, and I will again attest to that and say that it's fantastic. I find myself looking
thank
forward to it
you.
every week, and kind of like you're saying, it's good to be informed with news, but sometimes it can be heavy and you're like, oh, like another, bad things going on in the world. It can be a lot to weigh on you. So I really like having that
Hmm.
positivity once a week of just like, here's some good news that's going on. Here's some good stuff in the world that, we still need to appreciate and acknowledge. And for me, someone that like I like to meditate, I like to practice mindfulness and stuff like that. Sometimes life just gets so busy, I forget to do that, or I forget to take deep breaths and
Yeah.
to actually like slow down for once. So
Hmm.
even, in your newsletter, just like the reminder of like breathe in, breathe out. I'm like, okay, let me do that. Let me stop what I'm doing and actually like follow,
Oh,
the meditation practice or the breathing exercise because it's important. I mean, we need to kind of take those breaks. And I think that, what you've done and what you've put into it has been fantastic. So, kudos to you. And I'm so excited for the future of what you can do with it.
oh, thank you. I so appreciate you saying that because when I first told Peter, I was like, I kind of want to have a section for like meditation and
Yeah.
things. He was a little like, oh, I'm not sure about that. And I was like, let me write what I'm thinking. I was like, I want to have like a mantra of the week. And he was
Yeah.
like, oh, but now he's like, oh, now he's like, it's literally the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I think I can throw stories at people all I want, but it's like you can read positive news and still be in a bad headspace. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm really trying to make it yes, it's positive stories, but it's also just a reminder to take care of yourself
Mm-hmm.
because, yeah, especially the last 2 years of the news has been so heavy.
Yeah.
And even before I was writing it, when I was just a subscriber of the donut, the dose of positive every day in the daily donut was always such a highlight. I would literally like scroll
Mm-hmm.
to the bottom just to get that happy story. And at the time, it was PJ writing it, and he was like, we just always threw it together. It was always the last thing, like, oh gosh, we got to figure out what to put in there. But it was always, in my opinion, so great. And so
Yeah.
now I get to really take the time to find these stories and then also have Positive Donut where I can remind people, like, it's okay. Let's all
Mm-hmm.
take a breath together.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you saying that,
Of
that the
course.
mindfulness section has been noticed. And yeah, and I just want it to be fun. I try to also include like just fun like dance videos and puzzles and
Mm-hmm.
riddles just to like give people 5 minutes to read this email and just smile, not
Yeah.
worry about anything. Um, but yeah, it's been great, and I always get so many sweet, sweet emails from readers like, I was having a terrible week and this made my whole day, or like, oh, this made me cry. This was so amazing, this story. And there are, just like we were talking about with performing, there are days that I'm like, okay, I don't, if I'm in a bad headspace, like, oh God, I have to pretend to be all happy and write this. But by the end of putting it together, it always, like, I'm always in a better place of like,
Yeah.
oh no, this is, there's good. And then to get positive responses, it makes it worth it in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And again, it's another opportunity for you to really impact people on such a personal
Mhm.
level and just on a, just human interaction connection level. I mean, I know that you always encourage people
Yeah.
to email back and respond, what's going on in your life? What are some wins? What are some positive things? Or, if you found a story that really resonated with you, to email back. So you're really making those connections. And I'm so glad to hear that you are getting that kind of, again, positive feedback from people because yeah, I mean, like I said, it's one of the highlights of my week, so I always look forward to it.
Oh, thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, we really wanted it to be community based
Hmm.
because with the Daily Donut, we're just getting the facts out. We're trying to just get as much information as we can to our readers, like unbiased, factual information. And so with Positive Donut, we obviously have a bit of a smaller subscriber base, but I really want it to be like, it's hard because it's over email, but try to have at least some sense of community. So that's why I have the What's
Yeah.
Your Win section that our readers can send in their positive stories happening in their lives, because
Hmm.
I share positive stories from around the world of people we don't know. But if it's actually coming from our readers, I think it just makes it so much more collaborative.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's always so nice when I get people like, oh, this awesome thing happened to me this week, or I heard I got this job I wanted, or
Hmm.
whatever's happening. It's always so nice to include that and make
Yeah.
people feel seen. Sometimes people just want to be seen and heard,
Hmm.
and to include that in the email, it's really nice. That's like me, PJ, Kyle, that's all of our like favorite section is the What's Your Win, because we get to highlight our readers, and we would be nothing without our readers. Like, we need the subscribers to keep the business open. So
Right.
it's always nice to highlight all the good things going on in everyone's lives.
Yeah, definitely. I love reading what everyone else has kind of for their own wins of the previous week or going on in their life.
Hmm.
I think that's really cool to see and showcase. And I know you mentioned that even though it's through email, it's always been a priority to have that sense of community. And I mean, I'd argue that even like this recording right now is solely a product of the Positive Donut, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if it wasn't for you
100%.
doing that, then and just for anyone listening, a little background on it, I reached out to Kailyn a while ago about a story that she published in it, and I was like, "This is really cool." I like saw a movie based on this story, and then we kind of exchanged a little thread of communication that way, and then that's kind of after a while I reached out and I was like, "Hey, I love what you're doing. You want to come on a podcast?" And here we are.
Yeah.
So it's forming that community and having those interactions and,
Yeah.
that human interaction piece that a lot of us might have missed out on over the last couple of years with how wonky the world's been, but being able to connect and to share stories and just to, highlight all the good that's going on in the world. And that's why I was super excited and am excited to have you on the show, because you do just radiate that positivity, and to kind of take someone who almost prioritizes showcasing other people's lives and wins to kind of flipping the script and
Mm-hmm.
showcasing a little bit about your wins and all the great things that you're accomplishing.
Aw, yeah. Yeah, it is nice.
Definitely.
Happy to be on here. I've never been on a podcast before. I was like, oh, this is great.
I love it. Yeah, I'm so happy to have you. And as we're kind of wrapping things up, Kaylin, I know that you said that you'll be on the cruise till you said September.
September. Hmm.
Okay. So that's kind of like the foreseeable future and still writing and everything for the donut. And I know like, the future might be a little uncertain, not too sure where everything's going to land, but do you have any future kind of goals or things that you want to try to accomplish, like bucket list things or just
Mm.
things that you have on the radar?
Yeah. Yeah, so I will be performing on board my ship. I'm on Celebrity Summit is the ship I'm
Hmm.
on. I'll be here until the end of September. So it is a long contract. I came on board in January. So it's,
Right.
3/4 of the year, which is so crazy.
Hmm.
Um, but once I get home back to New York, I am definitely ready to perform on land. Because so I graduated college, moved to New York City, booked Celebrity Cruise Lines about just after a year after I moved there. Um, then I was on my ship, the first ship I did, and then COVID hit. And
Yep.
then I had 2 years of practically nothing other than like Zoom concerts, which, you know, not ideal.
Right.
So, so now I'm thankfully was invited back to a different ship. And so now I'm here, which is so great. Um, but I'm ready for the next thing. And so when I get back to New York, my hope, I'm going to start auditioning. Like I said, look at this full circle. In the beginning, it's nice because I can audition virtually.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start sending in videos, July, August,
Okay.
September. So hopefully I can have something lined up by the time I get home.
Hmm.
Because most theaters will be casting their Christmas shows in July, August to start
Okay.
rehearsals October. So I'd love to do something on land for the holiday season. And yeah, I feel like every time I get settled in New York, I leave again.
Yeah.
I was there for a year, left for a ship, then COVID hit. I was with my parents for a while, got back to New York, was there just over a year, and then I left again. And so I'm
Hmm.
ready to be there. My boyfriend's in New York, so to just
Okay.
be there again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to do a national tour. I'd love to work. Um, there's so many amazing theaters I'd love to work at in the States. The end dream, someday is obviously to be on Broadway, to be performing in New York
Yeah.
full time in a professional Broadway house. Um, and so that's the grind. Give me a couple of years and we can
Yeah.
follow up on that.
I
Um,
love it.
but yeah, I'm really looking forward to being back in the fall and just hitting the ground running. Now that things are back open, it just has been so hard with the pandemic. But now
Hmm.
that it's calming down, theaters are back open, concerts are happening again, I can really start focusing when I get home on making it in New York.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, I think that sounds awesome. And I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you to kind of get the chance to maybe officially make New York feel like home after kind of a wild few
Yeah.
years since moving there. And, I love the dream of, one day being, on Broadway in that performance. And I love that you said we'll kind of circle back to that in a few years. We'll
Yeah.
definitely have you back on the podcast in a few years and hear all about it. And I will be one of the first people to go out that way and to catch your performance. So, uh,
Oh, thank
super
you.
awesome. Yeah, definitely. So, um, Kaylin, if anything that we've talked about or your story or what you're doing has really resonated with people, they want to check out what you're up to or check out the donut,
Mhm.
Positive Donut. What's like the best way for people to kind of follow you along in your journey? Like, is there any social media that you have that you want to put out there, or like YouTube or anything for performance stuff?
Yeah, definitely. The best way to probably keep up with me is through Instagram. My
Okay.
Instagram is just my name at Kailyn Toussaint. It's Kailyn. I have a difficult name, and then TOU. So at Kailyn Toussaint. I am also on TikTok
Okay.
documenting my cruise journey specifically, and my handle is at cruising Kailyn. And so
Okay.
if you're interested in knowing what it's like to live on a ship, to be a crew member, um, because I living on a cruise ship is very different than vacationing on
I
one.
can imagine.
So yeah, I'm posting a little bit of like, what's it like, crew areas, the mess, these all these things that guests don't get to see. So if you're interested in that, give me a follow on TikTok. And
Okay.
then if you're interested in just my career in general, more about me, you can follow me on Instagram. And obviously subscribe and follow the donut. I think our Instagram is the Daily Donut.
I think it's, yeah, the Daily
Um,
Donut.
so give us a follow on there and subscribe to Positive Donut. I
Yes,
think everyone needs some more positivity.
I
So
agree.
I'd so appreciate some more some more readers for that. It's always less than a 5 minute read, just a burst of goodness. There's still
Yeah.
good in the world once a week. Um, yeah,
Okay.
that's where you can find me.
Perfect. Yeah. And everything that Kaylin just mentioned, her Instagram, TikTok, information on the donut and the Positive Donut, I will put in the description of the episode. So feel free to go down there and follow those links, find the ats there if you missed it when Kaylin mentioned them. But yeah, if anything really resonated with you, feel free to connect with Kaylin. I encourage you to. She's a very positive person that
Yeah, please.
you heard it here first, will be on Broadway in due time. So,
Yes.
this is the time to kind of follow her career and see the journey as she continues to evolve and grow with it. So, like I said, all that social media links and everything will be in the description of it. But yeah, it's been a wonderful conversation. Is there anything kind of like final words, message that you want to give to anyone listening?
I mean, I guess just keep your head up. That's like my whole thing. I want
Yeah.
people to just, especially lately, my goodness, things have been tough.
Hmm.
News is heavy, but don't forget to breathe, keep your head up, and subscribe to Positive Donut. And thanks so much for having me. This has been great. And yeah, please, if you're in theater, if you're a musician, if you're a writer, reach out. I'm always happy to connect with people.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Kaylin. Again, as she just said, keep your head up, keep going, find the positivity in life. I know it can be hard. I know we're going through some tough times,
Hmm.
but there's always some positivity out there. There's always some light in any darkness that we're going through. So I encourage you, and I know Kaylin does as well, to seek out the positivity. And if you are maybe struggling with finding positivity, Positive Donut's a way to get it injected into your life without having to do much work on your part. So, um,
Exactly. I'll do all the work. I just send
there
it
we
to
go.
you.
There we go.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, Kaylin, again, thank you so much for taking the time to be on here. It's been great getting to chat with you, hear about your story, hear all that you've been doing. And, I'm excited for your future. And I have no doubt that you're going to do incredible things. Stay safe on the cruise. Hopefully, good weather and pretty decent
Yeah.
internet when you can get it. And I'm sure we'll be talking soon,
Thanks so much, Zach.
of course.